A lot of you have asked in the comment section, what is my acting history and background? Let me get personal with you and paint you a picture. What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for turning up and tuning into my YouTube channel. My name is Islam Balba and I'm here to discuss everything to do with acting. In this video, I'll be sharing my acting story. I've held off on this video because I prefer making content that's both educational and helpful. But today, by popular demand, I'm diving into the full story of how I went from engineering to acting, from community theater in Ottawa, Canada to the stages of New York City. Let's go all the way back to my childhood. As a kid, I was always into TV. I was obsessed with TV, but the real inspiration came when watching Home Alone. I was the same age as Kevin, and I wanted to be Macaulay Culkin so bad. Being raised in Dubai, UAE, there barely was any artistic avenues in school. I had this vivid memory in grade 5 of a talent scout coming to my class and looking for kids for a music video by an Arab singer. I remember he looked around and picked 10 of my classmates, and I wasn't chosen. I remember going back home and crying for a week. I was devastated. I wanted to be in this video so badly. Why did he choose my friends and not me? Fast forward a few years later, I moved to Egypt in high school. I remember there was a national poetry recital competition. Me and a few of my classmates signed up. We went on a field trip from Alexandria to Cairo to audition. I was the one chosen as a top 10 finalist for poetry recital in Egypt nationwide. I remember performing on a huge stage in front of judges. My school was so proud of me that they made me recite the poem during assembly as well as during prom and graduation. But alas, that was it for me when it came to acting. I come from Egyptian parents where acting is not really an option. You either need to be a doctor or an engineer or in finance. And I was convinced that they were right. Fast forward a few years and I moved to Canada for university to study engineering. Now, I could have auditioned for films and plays, but I didn't think of it as an option. I was 100% full-on focused on finishing my engineering degree and making my family proud. Once I graduated and started working as a software engineer, I decided to give acting a shot. Back then, there was an Ottawa theater community website. I applied for my very first role and auditioned for a lead role for a play written and directed by Lisa Muser called Dead Man on My Couch. Lisa loved the audition and she cast me as the lead role. That's when I got the acting bug. I loved the experience way too much. Once the play was over, Lisa wrote and directed another comedy play called Me, My Mom and a Whistle. She cast me in it and I played several different characters, and I proved how versatile and funny I can be. Lisa was a huge fan of my acting that she cast me in her next two plays, Permanent Smile and Divinity. And then she made Me, My Mom and a Whistle into a feature film and cast me in it. While that was happening, I jumped with both feet into acting in the Ottawa community. I've acted in so many short films that I can't even count them or remember them, as well as a few feature films. I made a name for myself in the Ottawa community, and I took advantage of every project there is out there. The two directors that were big fans of my acting and cast me in many of their short films were Mike Horrigan and Dennis Birkin. They focused more on the sci-fi, horror, experimental genre, and these were my first paid acting jobs. I made amazing friends during the process who are still my friends till this day. And then they started doing their own projects and films, and they would always cast me in their projects. Then one day, my great friend Phil Dukorski came to me and told me, "You have amazing ideas, man. Why don't you do your own project?" To me, that sounded impossible. Me doing my own short films? Where do I even begin? He told me, "If we can do it, you sure can." And I did. I started writing scripts, producing, casting, and directing my own short films. To my surprise, the films ended up doing pretty well. I've directed 12 short films in all different genres like drama, horror, comedy, romance, and they all got into film festivals. One film in particular, Lucky Sam, was even broadcast on CTV. If you want to check out the film, here's the link to it. Now, when I was filming my very first short film, a biopic drama named Second Class Citizen, my lead actor Hatem Hamour came to me one day and told me, "Why don't we open a production company producing plays in the Arabic language?" I just laughed in his face. A full-on production company producing a full-on 2-hour play? He told me, "Trust me, we can do it." I remember this very well. We sat at a Denny's and wrote the concept and scenes of the play on restaurant receipts, and the rest was history. Hatem changed my life the way someone needed to change my life. It was the push that I needed to shine. We founded the company Balmour Productions. We wrote, directed, and produced 2 original plays, as well as My Arab Fair Lady, 2 sold-out theaters, and we toured Canada. We were the talk of the Arab community. Everyone wanted us, from events to galas to fundraisers. We were hired by all. We were at our peak. At one time, 50 cast and crew members joined our team, to a point where the casting directors of the Hollywood movie X-Men Apocalypse approached us to cast Arab actors, and they ended up casting one of our actors, Abdullah Hammam, in the movie. I was on cloud 9. I couldn't be happier with all the accomplishments. At last, all things must come to an end. Hatem, who's still my best friend till this day, moved to Dubai, and the majority of the team moved on with their lives, either with their career or marriage or kids. But I didn't move on. I couldn't. This was my passion, the air that I breathed. I couldn't live without it. I just juggled everything together. My full-time job, my master's degree, my part-time teaching job, my production company, and producing short films. But I did move on, however, from Arabic theater productions, and I started focusing less on producing and directing and focusing more on a professional acting career. And around the same time, my very first director, Lisa Muser, switched careers and became a talent agent. Plot twist. By default, I was one of the actors in her roster. What are the odds? And now she's one of the major top talent agents in Canada, and I'm still with her till this day. And she would send me to major film, TV, and commercial auditions throughout Canada. I also auditioned for major theater companies in Ottawa, such as Ottawa Little Theatre and Kanata Theatre. And I got lead roles in plays such as Equivocation, The Melville Boys, and Ripcord. I had the time of my life doing those. But one of my favorite roles to play was Kevin from the play Stage Kiss by Sarah Rule. One of the critics watching the play said, "The best moments in the play came from Islam Balba, whose work as an earnest young stand-in revealed sound comic instincts." I felt like I was on top of the world theater-wise. Since I was working remotely and at that moment I was in New York for a work trip, I thought, why don't I check what's out there? And then I auditioned for a play called A Second Birth. And a month later, I got the role playing the father of the lead role in New York City. And that was the beginning of 2019. And I was like, now we're talking. This is an off-Broadway show in New York City. So I moved to New York City and then rehearsed and performed there. Then I auditioned for other plays and I was able to land a role in the off-Broadway show Murder on the Nile at the Players Theatre. That was one of the happiest moments of my life performing there. Unfortunately, while I was there, my work didn't accept me working remotely in New York City, so I was let go. But I thought, since I'm here, might as well take advantage and learn everything to do with the acting industry in New York City. I did all my research, went to all the workshops, casting events, auditions, networking events, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. I told myself, this is it. This is where I want to live, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, I ran out of money so fast, so I decided after the off-Broadway show, I'm gonna go back to Canada and work for 1 year, and while doing that, apply for the artist visa and save up money so that I can move back to New York. Now remember, this was mid-2019. A few months after, COVID hit and theater was cancelled and New York City was basically cancelled. So I thought to myself, I'm going to double down on work. Literally, I worked 2 full-time jobs. What else can be done? And in the meantime, I was applying for my O1 actor visa. Check out my video on how to apply for an O1 actor visa. What got me this visa was those 4 months that I lived in New York City. I made so many connections and I was able to apply for the O1 visa. When COVID started to cool down in 2022, I worked super hard with my Canadian agent Lisa Muser, and that was my active year. When it rains, it pours. I was able to book a docu-series called Mayday Air Crash Investigation, and I played Egypt's air pilot. A month later, I booked on the #1 drama TV show in Canada, Transplant, where I was the episode's patient. A few months later, I booked a feature film called Band, and that's how I became an ACTRA union member. Check out my video on how to join all union members. And after that, I also booked a few commercials like Capital One and Google. When it came to the theater world, I joined the American and Canadian Theater Union, and then I got a role in The Odd Couple in Florida, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have my O1 visa in time. 6 months later, I got the lead role in a play called Baba in Dallas, Texas, but again, I couldn't do it because I didn't have my artist visa. I told myself, this is it. I need to make getting my visa my #1 priority. I put all my efforts in the paperwork. A few months later, I got it. Seeing all the things that I've been booking, I told myself, this is a sign and now is the time. So by the end of 2023, I quit my software engineering job, packed my bag, and moved to New York City to pursue full-time acting career. And here I am, hustling and grinding and doing my absolute best to make it here in New York City. And also here I am, sharing my journey throughout this past year with all of you. Thank you for hearing my story on my most personal video ever. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so I can be able to provide a lot more content on getting you on the big screen and stage.